I have never been wrong in my analysis, and for me it is enough to watch Russian TVs to do short, medium, and long-term analysis with all the plans of Russia. I studied at 3 universities and I attended many trainings, internships, conferences. There are many analyses, but let us start with the most important analyses. That the Russians will take Crimea from the Ukrainians and will try to do something similar as in Moldova with Transnistria, separatist region supported by the Russian Federation, and in March 2014. Russia annexed Crimea, and from 2014 until now 2 separatist regions, Donetsk and Luhansk, supported by the Russian Federation, fight with Ukraine. If the Russians knew that the Ukrainians would go to war with the Russians to defend Crimea, Crimea would have been part of Ukraine today, but they knew that Ukrainians would not fight. My place got into trouble again after the Russians took Crimea. If in 2009 the Russians were not ready to destroy me, after 2009, the Russians worked intensively and recruited relatives, friends, people I met under different conjunct. I warned the Romanian authorities about a possible scenario that could take place in Moldova as well as the Crimean model, but was a person who has broken the Russians' plan, and that was me, and I am proud of that. And if the Romanians at the state level warned the Ukrainians about possible scenarios in February 2014, today Crimea was part of Ukraine. But they didn't. On December 22, 2015. 2 emails were sent by me, Plop Andrei /plop.europaparlamentar@gmail.com. 2. 1. The President of Romania. In the autumn of 2014 another president was elected. 2. Ministry of National Defense, Romania, to allow/authorize an intervention to defend the territorial integrity of the Republic of Moldova. Because the Army of the Republic of Moldova is too weak to face the 14th Army with modern and better prepared military equipment. As a result of the protests on the Maidan, Ukraine lost Crimea, in case the Republic of Moldova could lose Transnistria, de jure and de facto, southern Moldova and northern Moldova. Due to this analysis, the Republic of Moldova escaped a war with the Russians. The National Defense Pact signed by Klaus Iohannis in January 2015 is an essay that I prepared for the Master's program. I found about it by chance from the university professor. He was the PSD spokesperson, and he said in front of the whole course that I am the author of this pact. They did not offer me any job, I was not paid, and not even those from the presidential administration said thank you. Nothing. I assume that one of the factors was that in April until July 2014 I was an intern in the Polish Parliament in the Commission for National Defense. I will not write the whole essay here, but one of the ideas I wrote in that essay was that Romanians always rely on allies, and when attacked, it is left alone in front of the enemy, and that the budget for national defense is too little for the new circumstances. The fact that there is a person who can ruin the plans of the Russians, and in order to destroy that person you have to call people from the FSB branch in Moldova, which is called the Information and Security Service of Moldova. Next step, the FSB branch from Moldova sends challenges to Romania, and the Romanian intelligence service knows that a Russian/Belarusian/ will come and will walk beside me. Last time I was in Moldova on September 28, 2010, and since then I have not returned to Moldova. From 2012 to 2016 I studied law in Romania and also my Master's degree in conflict analysis and resolution, and let us say that one morning when I go to university, a Russian sits next to my chair, and I don't even know that individual, and in the same place there is also a Romanian security officer photographing me sitting next to a Russian. In some cases a joint team is created, between the intelligence service in Moldova and the intelligence service in Romania. Both teams are in Bucharest, and the Moldovan intelligence service provided all the information received from the Romanians to Russia. From the information received from the Romanians/Moldovans, the Russians send again provocateurs, people I do not know, and when I become a spy of all services, the people who work on my file, and because of the challenges and misinformation they send to the Moldovan/Romanians, who also work for the Russians, are promoted in their careers. From activists to people who work for secret services, my nightmare begins. So I hate the Romanians and send me in the arms of the Russians. I will have no other solution than to go to the Russians. And the people working in the counterintelligence services in Romania and Moldova will report that I, Plop Andrei, went to Russia because I was a Russian spy, and the people from the counterintelligence information will be promoted as they found a spy. Then I was in the Czech Republic or Poland. The intelligence services in Romania as well as undercover activists try to bring me to Romania. But when I get to Romania, they do everything they can to give me Russians. When I try to go to the United States, they do their best to not even reach the U.S. Embassy in Bucharest, and the closer I am to the U.S., they become more nervous. The challenges that Romania has made, the same challenges they have done here in Canada. They risked the career of some activists to save the covered activists. The Romanian intelligence services that collaborated with the Canadian services sent the information to the FSB branch in Moldova. The information was taken over by the Russians, who also sent provocative people I didn't know, and who were surprised by the Romanian/Canadian/Moldovan intelligence activists or services. The Canadian intelligence services are so crippled and corrupt that they were ####D like kindergarten children. Canadian police and intelligence services know all the people who were corrupt, because they also broke the law and took bribes. Intelligence services so stupid I have never seen in my life. I have no claims for activists because they are by their nature idiots and corrupt. As is a football league with a ranking, so there is a ranking of the secret services. All the intelligence services in the world have understood that Canadian services have been rubbed off as some children, but only they are trying to make it seem like everything is under control. The Arab, African, Chinese, Latin community have understood that they, Canadians, have been rubbed off by the Russians. Only Canadians are trying to keep some apparent ones under control. Everyone in the Canadian intelligence service had to be fired and to create a new team to investigate, but they want to send me to the Russians. Many people were promoted, and now to admit that you were wrong is the biggest problem. My message was very clear. Any person from Romania or Moldova, whether he is an activist or part of the intelligence services, must be arrested or at least suspected, and my message to Canadians is this: I will not go back to Moldova or to Romania. I will go to Ukraine, and I will fight in the war with Ukrainians against the Russians. I want to congratulate the Russians. ###D Canadians on their territory. Update/September 29, 2020. My Moldovan passport expired in September 2016. My Romanian passport expired in July 2018, and Canadians now have only two solutions: give me documents or send me to the Russians. Update/February 2, 2021. How to prove that Canadians received bribes. It's very simple. For 2018, 2019 and 2020 I submitted documents to the Canada Revenue Agency that I received welfare. Every Canadian citizen or immigrant who is in Canada is required to file an income tax return. Now all you have to do is check the income tax return of the Canadians who collaborated with Romanians/Moldovans, and these Moldovan/Romanians/ and you must also check the income tax return of these Moldovan/Romanians as well as the documents they submitted for the residence permit. And considering that I have asked for protection from the Canadian state, this means that any collaboration with Romanians/Moldovans is forbidden. This means that Canadians who have collaborated with Romanians/Moldovans should be imprisoned for the rest of their lives. Question: what will Canadians do to escape from prison? Anyone working for the police, CBSA, CSIS, or the prosecutor's office can check if a person receives welfare. Enter the identification number or social security number of the respective person and it appears in database, address, telephone number and also if he receives welfare. The criminal complaint I filed to the prosecution Canada after a year of silence from Canadian institutions was sent to about 60 embassies accredited in Canada and also to embassies accredited in Moldova. What bothered me the most was that even after filing the criminal complaint and publishing the sequences on the blog, Canadians continued to receive bribes from Moldovans/Romanians. I found at least 8 articles in the Criminal Code of Canada. I am waiting for the hearing date now. Update/February 15, 2021. Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny has lost an appeal against his jailing for violating the terms of a suspended sentence. Navalny was detained last month after returning to Russia from Germany, where he was being treated for a near-fatal nerve agent attack. He has blamed Russian President Vladimir Putin for the attack and says the charges against him are fabricated. And there is no country in the world that could put pressure on Russia to release him from prison. The Russians understood that if Navalny was arrested, then Putin's system could destroy everyone. And those who still pose a danger to Putin will simply be destroyed. Russian authorities fear democracy. Nelson Mandela has rightly said that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. I bought a group of about 250,000 people, with Russians on a Russian social network. And on that group I started publishing opportunities for Russians. It is known that Russians, Belarusians who are not comfortable with the authorities are expelled from universities. After Navalny's arrest we can write that there is no civil society in Russia. People like Navalny still exist in Russia. They just need to be found, helped, and trained how to fight the Russian dictatorship. Yes, education is the key to eliminate all problems. Update/February 24, 2021. I received the second negative decision today. Congratulations to the FSB, you won. UF sharp ####### D Canadians right on their territory. As I mentioned, the Canadians did their best not to be heard in front of the Commission because they took bribes from the Russians through Romanian/Moldovan intermediaries. They gave me the second negative decision without speaking in front of the Commission. Passports are both expired and all I have to do is leave Canada. I am going back to Moldova. When you receive second negative decision and all the passports are expired, this means that you have to leave the country. One passport expired in 2016 and the other in 2018. When you do not have a valid document, you have to go to the embassy whose citizens you hold. All people in all countries around the world who work in immigration know this. I will have to go to the embassy to issue an emergency travel document. With emergency travel document you cannot travel to another country. With this document you can only return to your home country. Do Canadians know what will happen to me when I return to Moldova? Of course they know. As the passports expired and the appeal was dismissed, I am forced to leave Canada, otherwise my stay in Canada will be illegal, and the steps that would have followed, I would have been arrested, imprisoned, and I would have been imprisoned in Canada for 3 months until I was deported by the CBSA. How do I know this procedure? Because of those 10 days I was imprisoned in Canada in December 2017. All immigrants who were imprisoned went through this procedure.